Hi, welcome to Alice Caroline. I'm Anna and I love working for Alice Caroline, and we get to work on lots of exciting projects, and we work with loads of gorgeous fabrics. In a lot of our patterns we use a technique called raw edge applique, and so we thought it would be really worthwhile showing you a really whistle-stop tour about how to do that. So you can see quite a lot of our patterns in the front here that use the technique. So there's the goldfinch quilt block, so that can either be a quilt block or a wall hanging. You've got the bluebird, it's a partially made block over there, so ignore the fact that it's got pencil marks on it. And we've got the tree of life pattern, which is a bigger quilt over here, a quilt or a wall hanging. And then the butterflies you just panned past is a butterfly flutter pattern. All of which, if you buy the pattern, you get all of the full-size templates within it. But I thought I'd show you very quickly how to do the goldfinch. Now here's the pattern that you get, and as you can see, you just print out the 4 pieces on A4 paper and you sellotape them together. And then you would use your background fabric. And I've already made my quilt sandwich, so I'll just show you. You'd take your backing fabric, sorry, your background fabric, not your backing fabric, and you'd put it under a light source. And that's not really under any light source, and you can see very clearly the pattern underneath it. So you could pin it to a window or put it in a really light place, and then that gives you the place where you can mark out your pattern onto your background fabric. So that's that. Then we make the quilt sandwich. So whether you're making a wall hanging or a cushion cover, you can also make with this. It's the same either way. You would make a quilt sandwich. And so in order to do that, you have your backing fabric. Now that would be right side facing down. I've just got a plain cream fabric there, but if you chose a Liberty fabric, for example, you would put the right side facing down onto your surface, and you put your wadding on top of it. This wadding is one that I like to use. It's an heirloom wadding. It's 80% cotton, 20% polyester. It's lovely and soft. It's got a really nice soft feel. It's actually very thin, so if you're using it for quilts, it's a really good one, but it creates a lightweight quilt, but also it's very warm. And then you get your background fabric facing right side up. And as you can see, I've started to put some of my pattern templates onto my background fabric. So the first thing you need to do is you need to get your fabric charm. Now we've recommended that you would use 5-inch charms for this project. Now if you chose a rainbow selection of 5-inch charms, it would do very well for this project. You might need a bit of extra green for your branches, and on some other projects you might need a bit of so for example on the tree of life you might need a bit more brown for your tree trunk. On your bluebird you might need a bit more blue for your actual bird. So you get your pattern and you'll just have to have a look and see what fabrics you'll need. But a rainbow set of 5-inch charms is a very good place to start. Now on this one we're using Bonder web, and I'm just putting the Bonder web onto the right side, sorry, onto the wrong side of my fabric. So you've got your fabric facing upwards and your Bonder web onto the back, and you can see there that's firmly attached. And then what we were going to do is take our pattern piece. I'm just going to roughly cut around our pattern piece there. You can pin it, and then so you can see I'm on the right side, and you can just cut around. And it's important to cut quite neatly at this moment because it's raw edge applique, so you are using the raw edges as your edge to your finished project. So there's no turned applique, so you're not turning a seam under. You're literally using your raw edge. And that's why the Bonder webs are really important for this technique, because actually it gives a double seal. It means that you're sewing the piece onto the fabric, but you're also bonding it to it by using the bonder web. Now I think this technique is lovely, and it's a real eye-opener to lots of other different projects. You can use it for appliquing letters. You could download letters off the internet and appliquing letters onto garments, for a personalised gift for somebody, or you could use it for attaching onto a wash bag that you've made for somebody. It's absolutely endless. The possibilities are endless. So when you've got your bonder web on the back here, one really handy hint to take the bonder web off. Sometimes it can be quite tricky. I take a pin and I use a pin, and then that makes it nice and easy to take the backing off the bonder web. Really simple. There you go. And then all we need to do is attach that piece by bonding it to the background fabric. I'm using a medium to hot iron, and don't stay on the area too much, because you can burn the fabric, particularly if you've got a light background fabric like I have here. So that's how you attach your bonder web pieces, and you can see it's quite firmly fixed already, but it just needs to be finished off with sewing. So then we move to the sewing machine. Now I'm using a quilter's free motion foot here, and it's let me take it off and I can show you. So this is the foot. That's for my Benina, but here's one. This is a standard one that you can attach to most sewing machines. They're pretty cheap. I think that was about £15. So that's that. Or you can use your standard foot. I'll show you how to do it. It's just, you have to keep manoeuvring the fabric a little bit more if you use your standard foot. So we're attaching the foot onto the sewing machine here. And then we are going to drop the feed dog. As you can see, my feed dog is dropped in there. And if your sewing machine doesn't have that facility, then don't worry. You don't have to have that as standard. It's just quite useful. So with this technique, we are actually controlling both the direction and the stitch length. So I'll show you on this bit here. I'm also going to use the needle down position. So when you need to pivot or turn, it's much easier. And if you use a standard foot, you definitely need to use the needle down position. So I'm sort of grabbing it because I'm controlling both the length and the direction. So with this, because I've got an open foot, I can swivel it around really easily, or I can sort of change direction very easily. Now we're trying to sew as close to the edge as we possibly can, and then I'm stopping if I need to readjust. Let's move those threads out of my way so I can see what I'm doing. This does take a bit of practice, and I recommend going as, you can see I'm going quite slowly, and I would recommend going quite slowly to start with, and then just stop when you want to. And actually, you don't need to turn the fabric with this method, but it's a lot easier to pull it from behind. It's easier to control the stitch length in that respect. So you can see I'm just going around the outside of each piece, and then I'm going to go along the edge of my branch. I don't know if you can see, but I've already sewn around most of the goldfinch. So it's a very easy technique. It's definitely a beginner, a beginner that wants to expand their sewing techniques. You can also do this by hand using a blanket stitch. It obviously is much more time consuming doing it by hand. And then once you get a bit more confident, you can go a bit faster. So you can see I've just done one branch there. It didn't take me too long. And then I'm going to finish off with a back stitch. So I've shown you how to use the open toe quilter's foot for doing raw edge applique, and I'm going to show you how to use a standard foot. So if you didn't want to invest, you wanted just to see whether you enjoyed it first before investing in a different foot for your sewing machine, you can just use a standard foot. So you might just have to stop a bit more often with this technique. So you just sew like you were using the other foot, but when you get to a corner, you just lift the foot and you go round. So there's a bit more manoeuvring with this. Definitely use the needle down position, because then it keeps the fabric stable while you are turning corners. So it's really possible, and equally as good a finished look. It just takes you a little bit longer. Okay, I probably don't need to show you any more. It just gives you a very good idea about how it's very easy to use the normal foot. And it's a very therapeutic technique, and it's really fun, and as I said, it really opens out the possibilities. And once you've got your pattern pieces, your butterflies or your goldfinch, you can use them for lots of other projects. You could use that butterfly to applique onto anything. So I hope that just gives you a whistle-stop tour, and hopefully it'll inspire you to try something new.